despite losing this battle, Zaros' empire would continue to flourish. Even so, no empire can last forever, much less an empire vulnerable to treason. The fires of treason begin to grow hotter as the Second Age progresses. The Kharidian-Zarosian War had come to an explosive end, ending Zaros' expansion into what had been a lush land. With his defeat at the final battle, he takes time to learn and reflect, which begins to stoke the flames of betrayal as the Empty Lord became the Empty Throne. After the Kharidian-Zarosian War, the Mahjarrat moved into Zaros' empire, and Zaros ranked them according to merit. He gave the rank of Legatus, the commander of a whole legion, to Waisatiel, Haziel, Zamorak, and Zamorak. He gave the rank of Tribunus, the lieutenant to a Legatus, to Karshai, Akthanakos, Lucian, and others. He gave the rank of Pontifex, the leader in the church, to Azanadra, Bilrak, Enakra, and others. Zaros also made the Praetorians the secret police of Senntisten. He gave this role to Sliske and Trindine. When the Pontifex Maximus, the leader of the Church of Zaros, died, Azanadra took the rank, making him second in command of the whole empire. To avoid conflict between his most favoured members, Zaros also created the rank of Legatus Maximus, the greatest general, and awarded it to Zamorak. Sliske, having liberated the Mahjarrat from Igflarin, was given the office of Praefectus of the Praetorians. In addition to the Praetorians were the Inquisitors, the church's secret police, Karshai being one of them. Under the Inquisitors were the Ordo Templi Zaros, or the Order of the Temple of Zaros, the Temple Knights. These Templars, while numerous, were reserved for special and secret missions, rather than deployed to the battlefield. Taking of the World Gate. Zaros had been able to sense Seren since the first moment he set foot upon Gielinor. Seren, however, being wrapped up in trying to save the elves from her curse, hadn't noticed her brother Zaros. Seren knew that the curse between her and Zaros, placed on them by Mar, was similar to that between her and the elves. She reached out to Zaros to see if time and space had had any effect. She saw the truth. Magic could not undo what she had done to the elves. Only separation from the source, from her. As divine beings, Seren and Zaros could survive this separation, but the elves, mortal as they were, would only succumb to sickness and death. Her separation had to be gradual. Seren wished to ask Zaros for help, but he came with problems of his own, namely dealing with his empire. Seren would have helped, but for her elves had to come first. Seren told Zaros of her journey through the World Gate, in hopes that he could find his answers there. Zaros only accepted Seren's meeting because he needed her help. While his empire was large and prosperous, an alliance between the minor gods and the loss of his forces in the Kharidian-Zarosian War slowed its expansion. For this reason, Seren told Zaros of the World Gate, and he rallied his forces. As Zaros' armies marched west, Seren stayed secluded, ordering her people to retreat into Isafdar. Not all elves were happy with this, and many remained in the east, hindering the Zarosian forces for a time. Eventually, Zaros seized the World Gate from Seren's people. The World Gate was consumed by an all-enveloping emptiness, and the elves' access to it was lost. Aftermath on Tarddiad. Not only were the elves that had left Tarddiad unable to return, but the elves who remained, namely the Cywir clan, were doomed to a much more sinister fate. They craved Seren's essence and entered a state of withdrawal. They were so affected by the curse, so in need of their goddess, that they forced the crystals of the planet Tarddiad into their flesh, mutilating their bodies and becoming crystal shapeshifters. Some few Cywir were able to resist and carry on their clan. Zaros Explores. The Zarosian Empire, at this point, mostly self-sufficient, was led by the Mahjarrat, which allowed Zaros to explore through the World Gate unburdened. Through the gate, Zaros eventually discovered the planet Aya. Aya was a peaceful planet where the Iluyanka, a race of lizard people, resided and cared for the great beasts of the land, called Gurs. Iluyanka have an innate empathy ability. They used this on Aya to care for the Gur, and Zaros believed he could put it to greater use. After observing them for some time, Zaros approached them with an offer.
I can cure your infertility. You must stop playing nanny to these beasts and have children of your own. Come away from this world and receive my gift.
Faced with the promised and exciting idea that childbearing may be returned to their race, some Iluyanka accepted his offer and returned with him to Gillinor. They would go on to learn and excel in the concepts of war, betrayal, loyalty, and lies. The Iluyanka became the Dragon Riders, feared across the world. Around this time, Zaros also brought the Orspa into the fold. The Orspa were humanoids with an innate control over the element of fire. Zaros formed a romantic connection with one of these Orspa, named Char, a powerful pyromancer. In order to find a solution for the Iluyanka's infertility, Zaros required elder energy, as he was unable to create life himself. For the first time since he had left, he returned to Frenesque, where he found Ma in a catatonic state and began to harvest elder energy from her. Using such energy, he began experimenting on Aviancy, demons, vampires, and Icene in an attempt to create new life. He quickly discovered that he was unable to do anything aside from reforming their essence, and even to do that, he needed to siphon off Ma's energy. They were not new life, just reconstructions and mockeries of old life. They were Zarites, but he named them in the infernal tongue, Nihil. One of the Nihil, he noticed, had outgrown the rest, possessing the best traits of them all. Zaros knew the others would work together to kill her, so he instilled within her a small piece of himself. Zaros, despite being ashamed of uplifting one of his failures, had gained a new Legatus, Nex. After Zaros fails to create, or even manipulate, life on his own, he realizes that the only way to create life is to become an Elder God. And thus, the Empty Lord had a new goal. Tendrils of Xau-Tak. In the Empire, Sliske, the Praefectus Praetoria, was investigating the destruction of a navy ship in a strange storm. In his investigation, he discovered the disappearance of an entire island chain off the eastern coast of Hallowvale, reduced to underwater reefs. Only a few survivors, clearly maddened and either drunks in the city or interred in the Senntisten asylum, spoke of the Mwanu. Mwanu, strange ape-like creatures that wore even stranger masks. Another survivor spoke the name of the World Guardian, who wouldn't be born for another 6,000 years, and a being called Xau-Tak. Sliske would spend the rest of his life searching for the World Guardian, searching for you. Construction of Viggora's fortress. Viggora, a legatus in Zaros' army, notable for being the only human to rise to such a stature, designed and built a grand tower in Mauritania. Viggora built this tower in the hopes that it would prove to his fellow generals that humans were just as worthy as the rest of the Empire's races. The other legatus laughed in Viggora's face and dubbed the fortress Viggora's Folly after the lower levels sank and flooded in the swamp upon which it was built. Only one person that day refused to laugh, and Viggora took note. The beginning of the rebellion. Legatus Maximus Zamorak, the leader of Zaros' armies, began to have radical thoughts. He believed that the Empire was stagnant, and Zaros had lied to the Mahjarrat about his promises to them. After a millennium, the Mahjarrat still had to perform rituals to stay alive. Zamorak feared for the extinction of his race. Having not seen Zaros for some time, Zamorak plotted. Zamorak started planning his betrayal with his closest allies, each carefully chosen and convinced of his plan's success. His primary goal was to eliminate Zaros' loyal soldiers to increase his odds of capturing the city. Zamorak's rebellion, Perjour. Perjour, a scholar, was gifted a book from Zaros that transcribed everything he saw and felt. Perjour was often assigned to sensitive missions, and his book was read by the Inquisitors. First, Zamorak cast a spell on the book, creating a duplicate so that he could spy on the information being given to Zaros. Then, during a mission to the Fremennic provinces, he altered the book, causing it to show a different version of events and hiding many occurrences, allowing him to use Perjour as a direct asset in his rebellion. Zamorak's rebellion, Char. There were still a number of elven settlements outside of Seren's borders. On a mission to the west to scout out the elven settlements, Zamorak made his move. In the midst of an ambush by a group of elves, Zamorak approached Char from behind and impaled her with a poisonous dagger. He intentionally did not kill her, rather made sure she would not be present to stop Zaros from being defeated, but still live in pain to witness it happening. Char fell to the ground, her eyes burning with eternal hatred for Zamorak, as he left her and returned to his co-conspirators. Resigned to her fate, she accepted that she would not be there for Zaros. She stumbled into a cave and placed herself into an enchanted sleep. It would take thousands of years, but it would cure her of the poison. She would return to her god one day. Zamorak's rebellion, Torva and the Senntisten Guard. Torva, a tribune to Legatus Maximus, was sent by General Viggora, along with a large swath of the Senntisten Guard across the River Salve. They were told that this was a part of a preemptive strike on the Hallowland. Upon arriving, Torva noted that there was nothing but humans in tattered robes and Icene who were not trained for war, nor even patrolling. In his report, he recommended stern repercussions against General Viggora. Zamorak's rebellion, the Dragon Riders. As the day of reckoning drew nearer, Zamorak approached the legendary Dragon Riders with a proposition. In exchange for 2 of the Dragon Riders' number to become his personal bodyguard, Zamorak would deliver the cure that Zaros had not. They had a choice to make. Support the traitor Zamorak, their emperor Zaros, or remain neutral and pledge fealty to the winner of the ongoing confrontation. They voted many times throughout the night. Similar to the Gur meets on Aya, they never reached consensus, with 2 in favour of Zamorak, 2 in favour of Zaros, and 1 in favour of neutrality. As the morning approached, they had unknowingly sealed their fate. Zamorak's rebellion, the Mahjarrat. As Sliske had done with Zaros during the war with the Menophites, Zamorak did with those Mahjarrat under his influence. To Haziel, he said,
Zaros is unfit to rule. When was the last time you met with him? Or even saw him in public? The Empire is stagnating. The priesthood is corrupt.
To Lamistad, he said,
We were warriors once, brave survivors. But in this squalid empire, we have grown soft and pampered. Our brothers are priests and bureaucrats. It is our birthright to take what we need through force.
To Zamorak, he said,
Zaros' way is that of order, of stagnation. We both know that it is only through chaos and discord that real strength can emerge.
To La Costa, he said,
What will become of us when this war ends? Even now, the legions push at the borders of this world. And when there is no one left to fight?
To Ralvash, he said,
Zaros has taken our culture from us. He has separated us, denied us our traditions, and we are forgetting what it means to be Mahjarrat.
To Lucian, he said,
It is the destiny of every Mahjarrat to rule. You and Many others languish as mere tribunes. Zaros will never recognize your true potential. But I will give you 4 and 3 to rule as your own.
Zamorak's Rebellion, House Drakan and the Vampyres. After Zaros killed Drakan's mother on Vampyrium, for reasons unknown at the time, Zamorak promised him command of all the Hallowlands for his help in overthrowing Zaros. Zamorak's Rebellion, the Demons. Zamorak promised the Avernic demons that he would free them from the shackles of slavery from their Chthonian overseers. While many welcomed this, only Thammaron and Zabub risked fighting alongside Zamorak. Zamorak's Rebellion, Declaration of Viggora. Viggora, believing that Zamorak was the only one who saw his true potential, remembering that Zamorak was the only one that did not laugh at him, wrote an open declaration in support of Zamorak and marched on Senntisten. Zamorak's Rebellion, Elder Artifacts. It is currently unknown how, but around this time Zamorak obtained the Stone of Jas, and used it to empower himself for his upcoming treason. In addition, through a chain of coincidences, he also obtained the Staff of Armadyl. Zamorak's Rebellion. Zaros is defeated by Zamorak. A number of Zarosian leaders were called to Senntisten, each acting under different pretenses, and it was in this moment that Zamorak revealed himself. He marched through the great halls of the throne room, flanked by Zamorak and Thammaron to his left, and Viggora, Haziel, and Loanil Drakan to his right, and announced that Senntisten had fallen. He spoke to everyone in the room, the cardinals of the church, the leaders of the military, and told them,
"It is time to rise against the Emperor who refuses to show his face."
Suddenly, Zaros appeared, and Zamorak demanded control of the Empire. Zaros refused, and told Azanadra to deal with Zamorak. Azanadra didn't stand a chance against Zamorak, strengthened by 2 elder artifacts, the Staff and the Stone.
I expected more of you than deceit and mutiny. You are my most trusted general.
And we entrusted you with the survival and prosperity of our race. But what have you brought us except weakness and decay? You promised you would free us from the need to sacrifice, free us from extinction.
Semantics. I simply told you what you needed to hear. You are nothing but glorified mercenaries fighting for whoever is atop of the food chain.
This empire, your legacy, was built by us. You are nothing without the Mahjarrat.
Zaros ordered all of his loyalists to destroy Zamorak and his followers, and sat on his throne and watched as chaos ensued around them. Zamorak battled aside Auriculus, one of Zaros' pet Virius. He then jumped into the air and impaled Zaros with the Staff of Armadyl. The Staff, being an elder artifact designed to transfer energy, transferred much of Zaros' divine energy into Zamorak, reducing Zaros to an incorporeal form and ascending Zamorak from a demigod to a god. Aftermath. Once the battle was won and Zaros' physical remains lay at Zamorak's feet, the Tzutzaroth demons saw no reason to wait for their end of the deal. Zamorak's body began coursing with power, and he fell, writhing to the ground as divine energy changed his body. With the apparent death of Zaros, all demons sought direction from the victor. Thammaron gathered them and opened a portal to Infernus, where they would wage a planetary war to free the Avernic demons from the Chthonians. Shortly after, Saradomin and Armadyl arrived. Having sensed the sudden disappearance of so much power, they collected the Staff and the Stone and vanished. Zamorak's loyalist forces captured the Divine Palace, and Azenadra teleported the remaining cardinals to the newly completed Palace of Nex, far in the north, and together the two of them planned a counterattack to retake the city. Azenadra ordered Ayanetka, the Archbishop of Senntisten, to write to all of the bishops in the Empire, telling them the Empty Lord was not dead and will rule from the Shadow Realm until he returns to destroy the usurper. How long would this lie last? Gielinor, once perfect, is soon to be forever scarred. Wars lasting thousands of years will ensue, awakening the sleeping giant.